Now, the UN says Israeli forces have enjoyed persistent impunity for using excessive force against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank.
We also continue to observe persistent impunity afforded to members of the Israeli security forces for incidents of possible excessive use of force in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. In the rare cases where convictions have been secured, the charges and sentences have appeared extremely lenient given the gravity of the conduct. Similarly, there was no notable progress in investigations.
Addressing the Human Rights Council, Michelle Bachelet said that Israeli forces had killed 67 Palestinians, including children, between November of 2019 and October of 2020. She added that nearly 3,700 others were also injured during the same period. She also criticized Tel Aviv for lack of notable progress in investigating allegations of ill treatment and torture of Palestinian inmates in Israeli prisons. Bachelet said there have been no charges brought against Israelis involved in rights violations. The UN official called on the international community to hold to account those responsible for such violations and provide redress to victims. And now joining us is Angelo John Gage, activist and author from New Jersey, and Jason Unruhe, political commentator, joining us out of Niagara Falls, Ontario. Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you both to the program. I guess, Jay, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this? It's not the first time we've heard condemnations against Tel Aviv, but they're basically all bark. We never see bite. Your thoughts on the story?
Absolutely. That's the best way to put it. The UN will condemn just about anyone for anything, or condemn Israel for a very real crime against the Palestinian people. Yet in no way, shape, or form do we see anything done about it whatsoever. Guilty people are not held accountable for the crimes they commit. They commit these crimes with impunity. Israel commits these crimes with impunity. And the UN is a completely useless organization when it comes to holding these people accountable. It seems that the only people that the UN punishes for any crimes are the odd African warlord here and there, but those who are the biggest violators of human rights, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the United States, etc., they seem to have a free hand to do whatever it is that they want. I find it it's almost ironically funny in a way that an international organization has to come through and investigate the incident as if the Israeli Defense Force has any credibility in this situation whatsoever. They have repeatedly lied over the decades. They have repeatedly massacred civilians over the last couple decades. It's almost funny that anyone would believe their side of the story off the bat anyway. It's the same thing when somebody lies all the time. You never believe what they say. It seems to be in this case, at least Israel can lie about these incidences almost without restraint. I mean, this is the same side that is currently blocking COVID vaccines from reaching the Palestinian people. And when you're literally blocking something like that, a very necessary, medicine for trying to stop what is a worldwide pandemic, one has to question that if the people doing so have any humanity whatsoever.
Strong stuff there. Thank you, Jason. Angelo, I'd like to welcome you to the program, bud. Your initial thoughts on this?
I agree with everything Jason said. I mean, he basically took the words out of my mouth. Israel has been doing such horrible things for decades, including against my own country, the United States of America. Jonathan Pollard going back as a hero, Benjamin Netanyahu welcoming him back, the USS Liberty, all sorts of terrible things, Rachel Corrie as well. So my own country won't even do anything to punish Israel for what's done to us. I don't think anyone in the UN, specifically the US, which has the veto vote to do anything and just cancel any resolution whenever it feels like it, will do anything either for the Palestinians, who are basically under siege in open-air concentration camps. I mean, the whole world knows this, and yet nothing is done, just like Jason said. It's absolutely horrifying and sad. But yeah, I mean, if you speak about this, someone like me, been deplatformed on Twitter, they call you an anti-Semite because they expanded the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, now criticizing Israel is, they say it's okay, but no, it's also anti-Semitic. The Jewish state, even though there are Jewish people who criticize Israel who they call self-hating Jews. So you won't see many Americans, other than a few of us who are brave enough to stand up and say something about Israel, because you will be labeled an anti-Semite. AIPAC, ADL, SPLC, they all come after you, get you fired. So that's why here in America, people are silent. Not to mention our politicians are also passing laws against BDS and claiming that's anti-Semitic. So, you know, it's that's why the world is silent. And America is Israel's executive branch to go attack their enemies and silence countries and all that. But that's why you won't hear much, and it's very sad.
So, Angelo, so you and I have basically, you, Jason, myself, we have this right to liberty, to pursuit of, you know, freedoms, of happiness. Palestinians don't, okay? No. And so how do you give them recourse? How do they get those liberties? How do they get out from under this marginalized apartheid, you know, self-existence or sub-existence, you might say? How do we give them the freedom and equality that the rest of the world enjoys?
Well, like I said, you know, America always vetoes every resolution against Israel. Blinken even said it's anti-Semitic, and it's the same rhetoric, anti-Semite this, Nazi that. So they have to restructure the UN, or as Jason said, it's pretty much useless. They need to get rid of it or something to make it where it's fair. So when there are criticisms of Israel, you know, legit ones that you can see, you know, what's happening, that action is taken. That one country like the U.S., which is basically controlled by AIPAC and everything, doesn't just veto something and it goes away. You know, maybe change the voting system. I don't know, but right now it's completely a joke, as Jason said, completely useless, and it's a disgrace.
And Jason, how do you want to answer that? How do you help Palestinians at this point?
Well, honestly, it's something that hopefully in the ideal case that the regular people of the world get together and pressure their governments to do something about the criminal regime of Israel, start doing real sanctions, blockading them from purchasing military technology, get the IAEA to go in and investigate Israel's nuclear weapons program, which of course officially does not exist, but everybody is certain that is there. The Israeli regime is not going to go away of its own volition. It is a project, and it will remain so under its own perceived right to do as it feels to Palestinians. It is something that the international community is going to have to address sooner or later, and finally bring about an end to what is basically an ongoing genocide.
Thank you, gentlemen. Time has gotten the better of us, but I want to thank you both for joining us on the program. Angelo, John, Gage joining us out of New Jersey, and Jason and Unruhe there joining us from Niagara Falls, Ontario. And viewers, that is a wrap for the segment of your Press TV's News Review program. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.